How you going, people? This damn Karen Reed trial has got me sucked in. Accused slain cop's girlfriend maintains innocent on Nightline. So, for some reason, this came up because I'm watching the trial, and I went, oh, let me take a look at this. Because anytime a suspect does an interview before a trial, it's usually very telling. And there's a lot of little things that you can pick up. I'm going to go over this Nightline interview with her, and I'm going to tell you what I see from an experienced investigator, cop, detective, whatever you want to say, worked plenty of cases, interviewed lots of people, etc. So I'm going to give you my opinion. If you know me, I am not a back to blue guy. I think our government is corrupt. I think our cops are corrupt. I don't trust any of them. And I am probably one of the most anti back to blue no matter what they do guys out here. But I think I'm also reasonable and fair. Let's see where I go here, because I'm sure I'm going to upset people that think she's being set up. Here we go.
Outside this courthouse in Canton, Massachusetts, supporters swarmed around Karen.
She's smiling and happy and defense, and look at the support, and she is just living the dream right now. Charged with a crime, and I'm an innocent, nice-looking woman that I have all this support, and people are yelling my name, and I'm in the news. So what? Doesn't mean that she was drunk. She made some statements. There's some evidence, and she's the most likely suspect. None of that changes because of this show.
Reed, charged with murder in January 2022 death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, Reed has strenuously denied the allegations.
I did.
Strenuously denied. Ooh, that sounds like it must be true.
Not kill John O'Keefe. I've never harmed a hair on John O'Keefe's head.
Her defense, bare-knuckled and bold.
Okay, so I'm sitting here watching her. She could be cold. She's got a little defensive stance. That's obvious when you're being interviewed. You're being charged with a crime. You're nervous. You want to protect yourself. Not necessarily deception, but she's protective.
Is making national headlines. Her lawyers alleging in court documents that a fellow police...
Again, these marks to me look like there's healings. I'm not too concerned on this. Could this be he was drunk and trying to get up from the ground and there was broken glass and tail lights and ice, and because he was drunk he was trying to get up? Maybe. Could this be from a fight? I've been in a lot of fights. I've never seen injuries like that on an arm from a fight. These are all kind of systematically the same. So do I think that happened because he was beat up? I don't. Now, one of the things is they had a dog that was aggressive and didn't like people. Well, the dog just barked. He never bit anybody or attacked anybody. He was aggressive to dogs, according to testimony. Again, does this look like a bite? I've been dog bit. I trained dogs in the military long time. I'm telling you. I've been dog bite. Could that be a dog bite? It could be scratches from a paw. It could be a dog playing and you rip your arm out maybe once. But if that's a dog bite, you have 2 bites canine. That means the dog would have had to pull through. I don't see one puncture wound there. It's hard to have a dog bite with that many scratches from a dog and not have a puncture wound. Not one puncture wound. So I don't believe the dog theory or the fight theory.
Police officer was involved in O'Keefe's death and colluded with other people in a cover-up. You're alleging that law enforcement officials in this state committed murder and that they're covering it up. Why would they want to be involved in this?
Because he's dead. I think things went too far. It was late. There was alcohol involved.
So they cut a lot of her view off when she's answering questions. I would love to see, and I would, if I was working this case, I would have subpoenaed the uncut footage of this entire interview, and I would have really focused on her face the entire time, and her body, and her eye blinks, and her disposition when she's talking and denying things.
But they're all family, and there's many of them involved.
After posting bail, Reed has spent much of the past 18 months in and out of court awaiting a trial date.
And me and my family and my attorneys and my team have marshaled every resource to get to the truth It just feels like no one else wants it.
Prosecutors allege that Reed hit O'Keefe with her car after getting into an argument earlier in the day, leaving him to die in the middle of a snowstorm in January 2022. But Reed says she had no reason to harm her boyfriend.
I would call him the patron saint of Canton. He was just very selfless, frugal, and I think you'd be hard-pressed.
I want you to notice that every time they show her, she has a pretty natural, fluid eye blink. At one point, during denial, her eye blink is extremely slow, which is sometimes connected to withholding or lying or being deceptive.
To find anyone that didn't care for.
So her blinks are normal, and she's saying good things about him, which tells me she really believes what she's saying. He is a good guy. She probably feels bad she killed him. It was probably an accident. She was drunk. I'm not saying she's an evil person and should go to prison for life. I'm just saying this grand conspiracy thing and she's innocent doesn't fly with me.
For John.
The couple first dated in their 20s and reconnected more than a decade later in the middle of the pandemic. So how did you meet up again?
He had reached out to me on Facebook and he said, "Hey, blast from the past, how's things?" And when I saw...
Again, I want you guys to pay attention because you're going to see a difference. When she's talking about him and her facial expressions and her blinks are pretty normal.
His picture, his profile picture was with several young children, and then it triggered my memory that his sister and his sister's husband had passed away. And he told me, "Yeah, I have the kids now." I admired that. I thought that was amazing.
Soon, Reed says she became part of the family, often sleeping over at O'Keefe's house and helping take care of the kids.
He would go to work and I would stay with his niece and nephew. All of the breaks that the kids had, we did something.
But their relationship also had its struggles.
Notice the blue line flag on this guy? Look, all these cops, there's no doubt in my mind, they are blue line brothers and tight. Would they, if a guy was charged with drunk driving, try to go there, influence the cops, and give the guy a ride home to get him out of a drunk driving ticket? I absolutely believe they would all do that because they're all kind of drinking buddy cops, liking each other, would do things. I believe that. Would they murder a guy and then cover for each other and destroy evidence and risk going to prison for the rest of their life over an argument with a guy that there is no evidence, no text, no nothing that says there was any ill will between this cop and the other cops? It just doesn't fly to me.
Reeves says O'Keefe had been relying more on her to take care of the kids.
So everybody that was saying they got along great and there was no problems, first of all, that's pretty fantasy land for any relationship. But she admits that she felt she was taken advantage of. He was making her take care of the kids more than he was. She probably got attached for the kids. I've been in a relationship with girls that had kids, and I got more attached to the kids when I kind of less attached to the female. And I didn't want to leave, and I stayed longer because of my attachment to the kids. So I understand that can happen. And there was testimony that she spoiled these kids and bought them things and spoiled them.
Kids, and that he criticized some of the decisions she made with them.
We had an argument on...
Notice this blink and this cover up and this tension, because she's talking about something here that is uncomfortable and she doesn't want to talk about. When she was explaining how nice he was, she was blinking and her face was lit up. Here we have withdrawalness.
New Year's Eve, we were away on vacation, and he became incoherently drunk.
He became drunk on New Year's Eve, okay? One of the many times, I'm sure, these everybody involved are big drinkers. They're saying she had 9 drinks. She's saying she only had 4. But when you order a drink in a tall glass, normally, not always, it's a double. It's not a single. If it's a single, you get a short glass. Anyway, I digress. I'm speculating here.
And I ended up ringing in the new year with his niece and nephew. John didn't come back to our room till after 3 a.m. So
on, and again, this is just me thinking in my mind. So on New Year's, a very occasion to where you would really want to spend it with somebody you love, they had an argument. He didn't come back for 3 hours, and they were both very drunk. She didn't go look for him. She didn't panic, and she didn't start calling people. In this case, she was there, she dropped him off, And within, I want to say 15 or 30 minutes, she started worrying about him and started looking for him. That is extremely inconsistent bullshit to me. But again, I'm just throwing things out there. I'm not involved in the case. I don't have all the evidence. I'm just giving you my investigative look at this.
That was rough. I felt very much taken advantage of. He apologized profusely for what happened on New Year's Eve, and he said, if you can't get over it, then you need to spend some time at yours. I can't keep apologizing. I don't.
So if he's telling her, look, if you can't get over this, which tells me she was, and you did this on New Year's and you got drunk, and he was like, look, I apologized. I can't undo it. Either get over it or go stay at your place and leave me alone. That is clear that their relationship was strained, ongoing strain, wasn't new, wasn't great. Those relationships, when you add alcohol, drunkenness, shit happens. Sorry. Oh no, Rick, it's all the cops beat another cop up that are all back to blue love cops. They beat another cop up, dumped him in their front driveway, not in a car, and drove him somewhere. They beat him up in the house, this is their theory, and dragged him and threw him in the front yard, knowing the body would be found, and then got rid of their phone to hide the evidence. Really? Come on, people. This is defense bullshit in my book.
I don't want to keep rehashing this.
A few weeks later, they were invited to meet up with some friends at the Waterfall Bar in Canton. And there, they ran into Brian Albert, a fellow Boston police officer who Reed says O'Keefe looked up to. Albert had led the city's gang unit before commanding the Fugitive Apprehension Team. It was the elite squad responsible for...
Every police department always has elite squad. All my assignments in the military were elite. All my cop jobs, all the SWAT, they're elite. Yeah, we're a SWAT team. We're the elite. All that elite crap to me is whatever.
Taking down some of the city's most dangerous criminals, and featured in the 2013 TNT show Boston's Finest.
1 minute we're walking around, everything's fine, and then 1 minute it's not fine.
Both times I met Brian Albert, he seemed like the type of person that you'd be surprised he's out socially, because he doesn't seem like he ever wants to be there.
But at the bar...
A lot of cops that work with criminals all the time, you don't want to be around people. You don't really trust a lot of people. You keep your friends kind of very selective because you just see a bunch of bullshit. I get it. From people on the outside, such as her, she's described him right. He's not a very friendly, want to be around people, but he feels comfortable around his blue brothers because they all get it and they can joke and have black humor and they all understand each other. To me, that's reasonable. I get it. Doesn't mean they're going to conspire to kill one of their brothers and leave them in their own front yard. Come on.
Reed says there was an invitation to continue hanging out at Albert's home.
I said, can we make sure we're welcome here? Nobody extended the invite to me. I didn't hear the invite extended.
Hang on, I gotta go get some more coffee. I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm back. Here we go.
Extended to you.
They drive to the Alberts' house. What happens next is disputed.
So
here's where it gets, her explanation here is real critical. I would really hope that the prosecution has this full footage, uncut. So I wanted to add in here, even if the prosecution got this footage, they don't get to question her on it or bring it in unless she takes the stand. So that's why when guilty people, innocent poor victims where a whole city's conspiring against her, when people give interviews, they get to say what they want, how they want to say it, leave out what they want, not be cross-examined, and not have to justify anything they say. And the prosecution doesn't get a chance to question them on what they said unless they take the stand. And I said before, she's not going to take the stand. Rick, that's her right. If you should... She does have a right. Her not taking a stand does not convince me more that it's a big conspiracy and they all set her up.
Oh, I pull at the foot of the driveway. It's snowing. John has no coat on. It's windy. So I drop him off. He goes up the driveway and approaches the side door. And as I see him approach the door, I look down at my phone.
Reed says after about...
Notice they cut this off. I looked down at my phone and then what happened? Then they cut to where she just leaves.
10 minutes of waiting in her car, she became irritated that O'Keefe still hadn't gotten in touch with her, and she drove back to his home where she continued calling him before, she says, she fell asleep around 1:30 in the morning. She then says she woke up.
So within 10 minutes of him not calling her on this night where she drops him off, she's concerned. But on New Year's, she brings in a New Year with someone else and he doesn't come back for 3 hours. And she never searched, never did anything. Inconsistencies, details matter.
Before 5 a.m., he still wasn't home. She then started canvassing the neighborhood.
Just gonna drive around in the 2 square miles that we spent the preceding night.
After 20 minutes of unsuccessful searching, she called John's friend.
So she's so concerned after several hours of him not being around. She drives around. She doesn't call the police. She doesn't call a friend. She drives around herself. In my mind, she's trying to come up with, how do I explain this? What do I say? What do I do? I can't leave him. They're going to find the body. She's had a long time to think about it. Again, speculation. I have no proof of that. I would think they have subpoenaed her GPS records to her phone, and they know the path that she... Again, this investigation was done pretty bad. So maybe they didn't do that. They should have got her GPS, and if she's driving a car that has a computer on board, you can get that information also on her speeds, etc. I don't know how much they did on her, but I would think they at least got her path for the hours since the murder of her cell phone.
Carrie Roberts and Jennifer McCabe, Brian Albert's sister-in-law, who was also at his house the night before. The 3 women together now headed to Albert's home. How soon was it when you pulled in there that you saw John's body?
Immediately. And what struck me when I saw him...
See how they're cutting a lot? Immediately. And my guess is she agreed to do this, and the attorneys or somebody got to review what they could air, and they had them remove it, which is why they should have subpoenaed all uncut versions of this entire show.
Was his mouth was open a little bit, and his eyes were shut, and he had spots of blood in different areas on his face.
O'Keefe.
They went away from her.
He was taken to the hospital and pronounced dead. He died from blunt...
Okay, so this hand they talk about, this isn't a bruise from a fight. This is more of a bruise from, I'm drinking, you're a fucking bitch, I'm tired of your bullshit, get that fucking car, don't you fucking back that car to me. Bam! The glass breaks and he bruises his hand. She's coming back fast and it hits him. And he does this, it hits that, it may go on his face, he falls back and cuts his head. Those injuries are consistent with what I think happened.
Forced trauma and hypothermia.
And defense is going to say that's a defensive wound. I don't think I've...
It wasn't long before Reed became the #1 suspect. Authorities say they had noticed a cracked taillight after they seized her car.
I had told both Jen and Carrie that I cracked my taillight. I said I just hit my car on top of everything, but I didn't look at the damage. And both women said, it's cracked, it's cracked. Calm down, you cracked.
So both women had to tell her to calm down because she was so upset about a cracked taillight. And she said on top of everything, she hit a car. Wow. My boyfriend's dead. I've been drinking all night. I haven't heard from him in 3 hours. I've been driving around looking for him. I called 2 friends and we all go look for him. And somehow my taillight is a major topic that they need to tell me to calm down about my broken taillight. Yeah, I call bullshit. Sorry.
Cracked your taillight. You're okay. Let's go look for John.
But according to police statements, Jennifer McCabe told authorities that while they were looking for O'Keefe, Reed stated, "Could I have hit him? Did I hit?
Could I have hit him? Did I hit him?" So these are the 2 women that are her friends that says she made these statements. She said she got on the phone and left him, and then became worried, and then got friends, and then was worried about her taillight. And now she's saying, could I have hit him? Yeah, I think I'm leaning more toward the theory that 10 different cops in 3 different agencies, fire department, EMT, and this guy got his son and daughter and his wife involved in this big conspiracy, and they beat a fellow cop up. And in their great detective mind, as fellow cops, they decided to dump the dead body in their own front yard. Yeah, I think I'm leaning that way. Come on, people.
And when O'Keefe's body was discovered, first responders who arrived on the scene say they overheard Reed make other statements. Firefighter said that you said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
I said, I hit him. It was preceded by a did and proceeded by a question.
Do you notice the defensiveness and the... Look, and this could be totally normal, but totality of circumstances with everything looking at everything, I'm reading this defensive that I got to make sure this is a big part of my defense. This is a very damaging statement. I have to be very strong at the denial on this. And this denial is pretty strong.
Mark, what I thought could have happened was that did I incapacitate him unwittingly, somehow, and then in his drunkenness, passed out?
When you walked out...
That's exactly what I think happened, and I had never seen this, and I said this in a previous video. That's what I think happened. Listen to her thing.
What I thought could have happened.
Could. There's doubt. I'm not even sure how she would get there. I mean, as a detective, if she said that and I was interviewing her, of course she didn't give an interview. I guarantee you she didn't give a voluntary interview. She may have testified at the grand jury, which I doubt. This is a perfect example. What do you mean what could have happened? How could that have happened? Just magically? I think at some point they did say that she gave a statement that it went blank when she left there and she doesn't remember. She blacked out or something. Again, another big mysterious blackout by the prime suspect during the prime time that she can't explain. Wow, that's never happened in any homicide investigation, ever. Come on, it happens all the time.
Was that did I incapacitate him unwittingly, somehow, and then in his drunkenness, passed out?
When you walked out of the bar, how many drinks had you had?
I had probably about 4.
Probably about. They estimated her BAC, I think, at 1.3 to 3.0, which is almost 4 times the legal limit.
The Commonwealth says that you had 9 drinks that night. That's what the prosecution says.
I don't believe they're saying I wasn't in my right mind.
Notice she didn't deny there's no way I had 9 drinks. I would pass out. She's a pretty small woman, and small people tend to have less tolerance unless they're heavy drinkers. If she's drinking 4 double shot vodkas and she's still walking around and driving, even if she just had 4, and even if there was single shots, yeah, she's probably not over the limit. She might be close, but the limit doesn't really matter to me. Somebody that drinks a lot, and I said before, all these people I think are big drinkers, their tolerances are very elevated.
They were saying you were intoxicated. Is it possible that you might have hit him unwittingly in your admittedly very large SUV?
No, not possible.
3 days.
Okay, this is where I got the very controlled body movement, no, and the slow blinking. Watch her denial.
Your admittedly very large SUV.
No, not possible.
3 days.
I thought that blink was slow.
Your admittedly very large SUV.
No, not possible.
3 days after O'Keefe was found dead.
So it's not possible, but a few seconds ago she said, could I have done it? And she made statements that maybe I hit him. And she was extremely upset over something like a broken taillight when she's drunk, got friends looking for her boyfriend's dead.
Dead. Investigators arrested Reed for manslaughter. She was eventually indicted on second-degree murder. Investigators reported they found fragments of broken glass on the rear bumper on Reed's vehicle.
I didn't know this. This is new to me. So there was broken glass on her rear vehicle. How could that have got there? He could have thrown his glass at her. I mean, I'm just thinking of all scenarios, how the broken glass, because the last time the dead guy was seen, he had a glass in his hand, and he probably was drinking while she was driving, and she dropped him off, and he probably had a glass. How could it get on the back of the car? One way, he could have set it on the bumper, and when they were passionately kissing goodnight, somebody knocked it over and it broke. Okay, that's one theory. Another theory, he got pissed off, they had an argument, and he threw it at her as she was driving away, and it got broken glass. That's a theory. Another theory is his face is cut up with glass, There's broken glass on the back of the car. His hand is bruised, the same hand that he would be holding the drink in, as if he hit or punched or tried to throw a punch or hit a car, or was holding the glass when the car was backing up at a high rate of speed, and he held it up to kind of defend himself. He didn't drop his glass. The glass broke. This hand hit him in the face. He had broken glass, and that's how he got the bruise on the back of his hand. Because he was drunk, he was thrown backwards, hit his head, which cut the back of his head. Rick, what about the cuts on his arm? I don't know. But that doesn't get me to a bunch of cops who are all back to blue brotherhood, beat up a cop in their own house, killed him, dragged him to the front yard, dumped the body, and then got their kid's wife and all of them to lie and tell the same story, and the EMT and the fire department, and the cell phone records, and the GPS data. People, I don't trust government, and they are very capable of some nasty, dirty shit. In this, I don't believe this conspiracy thing. I believe they did a shitty investigation, and I think the cops were negligent at best because of their investigation. And I think they probably ignored alternative motives and alternative suspects and focused on her because the statements, the glass, her behavior, their toxicity when they got the phone record. I think they focused on the most likely suspect, and I probably think they were right, but I don't have all the evidence.
And that a broken cocktail glass was found by what appeared to be patches of blood near O'Keefe's body.
Oh, cocktail glass and blood by the body. Shocking. Rick, the cops, after all these cops got together in the basement and beat him up in their home, they cleaned up the crime scene. They got rid of everything. They dragged him to their own front yard, dumped the body, and then threw glass on the chance that the girlfriend might have broken glass on her taillight too, on the back of her tailgate, and on the chance she hit a car and broke her taillight, and that she might make the statements. Yeah, that's the plan I'm going to do when I beat somebody up in my house and kill them. I'm a cop. If I beat somebody up in my house and kill them, that's not a good plan to get away with it. But
the victim, Mr. O'Keefe, is last observed on surveillance video with a cocktail glass in his right hand. The same arm that's injured, the same type of glass that is then recovered from the bumper of the defendant's car.
So I didn't know they had surveillance footage of him with the glass at the house. Even more.
In court documents, the prosecution also claims that Reed's blood alcohol level could have been between 0.13 and 0.29%, above the legal limit of 0.0.
Okay, so they're opining, if you read this here, that Miss Reed's BAC at the time, pretty high. How did they figure out that she had, why are they saying she had 9 drinks? If I'm doing this investigation, I get all the bar tabs. I get everybody's credit cards on what they bought that night. I go to the bar and I say, how many vodka tonics, because I think that's what she was drinking. How many vodka tonics did you sell to this on this tab? Because everybody was buying a round and this round, etc. So I can go to all the rounds and go, nobody else was drinking vodka. Everybody was drinking beer, whiskey, whatever. There was only one person drinking vodka and tonic. And there were 9 vodka and tonics bought that night that we know of. That's if nobody bought any with cash. So how did they get the 9? My guess is that's how they got that there was 9 drinks and that she had 9 drinks.
8. In addition, they say pieces of Reed's taillight were found on the scene the day O'Keefe's body was discovered.
So people are saying that they were set up later. On the day of the body, they found the taillights. Then when the snow melted, they found more taillights. Pretty consistent. Snow, melt, covers evidence. Some of it went to the ground. They saw some and they picked it up.
More fragments of that taillight were found the following week, according to Canton police reports, after the snow melted, which revealed more at the scene. But Reed's attorney, Alan Jackson, has a different theory about how those fragments of taillight got there.
Shocking. Her attorney, whose job is to defend her and protect her, and to throw out alternative suspects and motives in order to get her off, he has a different idea on what happened. Damn, that's never happened in a murder investigation. This thing looks like a new story.
Those pieces of taillight were placed there after the fact.
You're saying evidence was planted?
The pieces of taillight were planted after the fact.
What does the defense believe?
No justification why. Nothing like we have footprints, We have cell phone data of people in the house, and we got their records, and we have their cell phone that shows they went from here to there on GPS. No supporting data whatsoever. Just a statement to throw out smoke, hoping somebody will believe it. And he's got a lot of people believing it.
Believe actually happened to John after Karen dropped him off.
I think he walked into the house. I think he was confronted, was likely brought down to the basement. I think that confrontation got physical.
So he's saying all this with zero justification or backing. We've had multiple people testify that he was never in the house, never entered the house. We even have her saying she dropped him out. She even says she never saw him enter the house. Or she never says, I saw him enter the house. I haven't heard her say I've never seen him. She has not said, I saw him enter that house. But he gets to just make up and say what he wants.
And he was beaten. He was beaten to a point of unconsciousness.
Jackson argues that the autopsy photos of O'Keefe support his theory and not the prosecution's claim.
Looks like he's been in a fist fight and he's been beaten. He's got some defensive wound bruises on the...
That is not a fist fight bruise. This area is a fist fight. You'd have bloody knuckles. You have bruising here. You have cuts on the knuckles. If he's fighting for his life, you have DNA evidence under his fingernails where he's grabbing. You have torn fibers that he was in a struggle, and we found things under his nails. One bruise on the back of the hand that he was carrying the drink that was found on her vehicle and by his body is a whole lot more than they took him downstairs and he had a big fight for his life with multiple of his cop buddies, which there's no text or no fighting or no relationship whatsoever other than back the blue buddies, drinking buddies, and they all decided to beat and kill him and dump the body in their own front yard. It is just so, to me, outrageous that people would buy into this, but go ahead.
Backs of his hand. He's got this massive laceration on the back of his head.
No kidding. That's consistent with being hit by a car and thrown back and hitting your head. That's not consistent with a bunch of guys beating him up.
A big giant gash, about 2.5 inches, exactly lateral, going from left to right. 2 black eyes, cut over his right eye, cut over his nose.
Facial injuries when you're hit by a car and thrown backwards, common. That would cause all that. If you got black eyes and cuts on the nose, somebody, one of those people, there's blood, there's cuts on their hands, there's yelling, there's loud noise. So far, every testimony I've seen, nobody says any of that. Could they all be lying? Yes, they could. Is that reasonable? Not to me.
This was a cover-up that John was murdered inside that house. His body was placed outside.
But in a statement to ABC,
great cover-up. A bunch of cops, seasoned cops, who have done a lot of investigation, testified in court, beat a guy up and kill him in their own house and dump the body in their own front yard. That's a great cover-up. I need to write that down for my plan in case I end up killing somebody in my house.
ABC News, the prosecution says there was no conspiracy or cover-up. Such claims have been systematically refuted by evidence submitted to Norfolk Superior Court.
So the district attorney makes this statement. Look, I'm no fan of the government. Of course the district attorney will say that. There's no conspiracy, no cover-up. Could they be lying about how many drinks? Could they not want to get in and be charged with DUI because somebody says, yeah, when you got the records for her, it shows that I had 14 drinks and I drove home that night? Could they be hiding information on that? Maybe. Could they be having an extramarital affair and they had a text and they wanted to get rid of their phone because they knew their phone was going to be subpoenaed and this extramarital affair would be come out, and so I'm going to get rid of my phone? Maybe. So could there be some lying going on? Yes. Can everybody get their story together to where they all want to commit perjury and risk going to prison to protect somebody or multiple people for beating up and killing a guy and dumping it in their own front yard? Not likely.
Court. The prosecution also said that according to O'Keefe's cell phone GPS records and 11 witness statements, O'Keefe never entered Albert's home.
So they got O'Keefe's cell phone records and he never entered the house. Yet the defense can say, oh, they dragged him downstairs. Oh, I get it. Hang on. Wait, let me help the defense out here. The cops, because they're cops and they're so methodical in thinking before they kill somebody, they took his cell phone when they grabbed him and abducted him in the front yard, made him leave the phone outside took him downstairs, killed him, and then dragged him out and put the cell phone back on him. That way, the cell phone will show he was never inside. That's what happened. Damn, come on, defense, you need to get that out to the jury.
And that a medical examiner found no signs of Mr. O'Keefe being involved in any type of physical altercation.
Now, the medical examiner saying this, he's saying this because there's no scratches. There's no hits on different areas of the body. There's only frontal damage from consistent with a car and rear damage consistent with a fall. If you're in a fight, there's going to be lateral punching, bruising on the jaw, ear, scratches, neck. You're going to see defensive wounds. Again, fingernail cuts where they're grabbing you, where they're trying to defend themselves when you're hitting them. These guys are cops. They're going to fight. I don't see signs that this guy fought for his life. But Rick, what about the cuts on his arm? I can't explain that. But that doesn't change that a bunch of guys dragged him downstairs and beat the shit out of him. And the only evidence, contrary to being hit by a car and getting tossed back in the snow, is scratches on the arm. Therefore, the scratches on the arm mean that a bunch of cops got together, lied, beat him up, and dragged the body and dumped it in their own front yard. Come on, people.
Or fight.
There's no evidence that Mr. O'Keefe was beaten and left for dead. There was no evidence of any defensive wounds.
ABC News reached out to attorneys for Brian Albert and Jennifer McCabe, but did not hear back by the time of this broadcast.
Now, they immediately got lawyers. Why? I don't know. Maybe to prevent a civil suit on their house. Maybe they knew they were going to be a suspect and they said, screw that, don't cooperate, don't talk. I don't know why they have lawyers. I thought it was kind of suspicious when I heard when they were questioning him, the defense kept saying, don't tell me what you and your lawyer said because that's protected speech. But they were asking him questions and they kept referring that he had a lawyer to maybe plant a seed in the jury. Why does this guy have a lawyer? He must have something to hide. He's probably lying. Yeah. I think he took him downstairs, beat him up, and dumped the body in his own front yard. Yeah, that's what I think.
Broadcast. In a previous statement to the Boston Herald, McCabe's attorney said the whole scenario is baseless. Reed is scheduled to appear next in court again in September.
Okay, so that's the Inside Edition. Again, I am shooting this from the hip, on the fly. You can say I'm full of shit too. I may be totally full of shit. Maybe we'll find out that 8, 10 cops, EMT, fire department all got together. There was a big conspiracy. She'll be innocent and all these cops will be indicted and I'll be 100% wrong. I think that odds of that is slim to none and slim left town, but it could happen. Just giving you my take from a detective investigative style looking at this. I go with what's reasonable and usually where the evidence leads me. To here, the evidence leads me. She's the primary suspect and she's likely the one that did it. Am I convinced? Have they got me enough to where she did do it? Not yet, but we'll see. We'll end that there. Y'all have a good one.